Turning now to the coronavirus pandemic, Texas is reporting 0 new deaths.
Joe Biden admitted to Congress a month ago that he wanted to go out and send this $735 million out to Palestine. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on over there. Texas reports 0 deaths in Texas since they opened the state back up, cutting sharply against the narrative that was pushed out against Texas. So we'll talk a bit about that. Joe Biden takes away the lobbying requirements and restrictions on former lobbyists turned government employees. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. And a Maryland billboard is causing quite a stir, so we'll talk a bit about what that means and what that means for the people of Maryland. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch of stuff to get to today, and I accidentally was on Elaine's channel just to begin, so I hope some of her fans will come back over here and come and hang out with us. But yeah, I just looked down at the number. I'm like, 20 people watching Contemporary in the morning. That's a little bit off, but yeah, we're there. We're ready to go, and we've got a bunch of stuff to get to today. But before we get started, head on over and check out my friends over at the Freedom Scoop Media Group. We carry great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, and much more. Come on over there. Pardon our dust. We're still finishing up our website, but we would love to have you over there still, so please come on over and hang out with us over there. Once we get back up and moving, we will have new opportunities to buy merchandise and directly support creators as well, so you can come on over there and help us support great creators. So looking forward to that, and we will see you guys over there. Let's look into finance for the morning here. The Dow closed yesterday down just barely. They were down to 54.34 points down at 34,327.79 points. That is down 0.16%. It looks like they kind of just had a smiley-faced graph yesterday, so I'm sure that it looks like we might look up on the finance for the day. It might come back up over and stay in the green through the day, or the government might do something stupid and it might drop again, but we will definitely pay attention to that throughout the week here. Let's look in at the Bitcoin, which is also having a rough time right now. Bitcoin is down to 45,044 US dollars and 30 US cents. So this may be the opportunity to buy the dip. And this may be crashing. This is not official financial advice, so keep that in mind as we go forward and figure out what to do with the Bitcoin. I'm going to hold the crypto that I have, and I don't have any Bitcoin, but I've got Doge, and I'm sure that that's probably going to go back and start dropping out too as things go through. But yeah, I'm definitely not going to sell, even if it does go drop. As long as Doge stays above 0.3 cents, I'm ahead. So that's something I'm also going to keep in mind as I go forward with this. It's not like I'm going out and I'm going to be poor and I'm going to lose everything. Doge has to lose a lot before I lose everything, but I also just threw $20 into it. So anything that comes back out of that, I'm going to be ahead. If I'm ahead $1, I'm ahead $1. And you know what? If I lose money off it, I lost $20. What's the big whoop? But that's what we're seeing coming back up out of that. Looking in at the fuel prices. Hey, maybe that's why Doge is going down. Everyone's got to go sell off their Dogecoin so they can afford a tank of gas. Around the Madison area, Costco is at $2.64 per gallon up in Sun Prairie. Otherwise, we see a $2.82 at the Quick Trip in Wanakee. $2.68, $2.69, $2.73, $2.79 it's all over the place in the city, but it depends on where you go. I'm trusting that a lot of people probably want to go out to Sun Prairie, so that's where it's going to be the lowest. All right, let's look into the finance, what the investors have to say, starting with Investors Business Daily. Archived, of course, because once you get it early, and I'm starting to get it earlier now that I'm not starting at 7:45 in the morning. Once you get it early, they put it behind a paywall. But you can get around that by archiving, of course. Or maybe you can't. Maybe they did find a way to screw it after all. Son of a bitch. All right, I guess we're going to have to skip that one for the morning. All right, from CNBC then. Dow dips 50 points to start the week as tech weakness continues, from Yoon Lee and Thomas Frank. Persistent weakness in technology stocks led the major indices lower on Monday after a week's hotter than expected inflation reading sparked a downturn in equity markets. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dipped 54.34 points, or 0.2%, to 34,327.79. The S&P 500 lost 0.3% to 41,63.29 as the tech sector pulled back 0.7%. The Nasdaq Composite fell 0.4% to 13,379.05. Big tech came under pressure to start the week, with Apple and Netflix each down 0.9%. Microsoft shed 1.2%, while Tesla dropped more than 2%, as famed investor Michael Burry revealed a big short position on the electric car maker. Traders have punished the technology sector in recent weeks amid a broader shift out of growth stocks and into cyclical reopening trades in energy, financials, and materials. Investors should brace for further bouts of volatility driven by inflation data, along with other risks such as setbacks in curbing the pandemic, said Mark Hafel, UBS's chief investment officer. But we don't see inflation concerns ending the rally in stocks, which we expect to be led by cyclical parts of the market as the global economic reopening broadens. Communication services stock Discovery bucked that trend up big after AT&T announced Monday that it would merge with Warner Media, which includes HBO with Discovery. The new entity will trade as its own public company. Discovery's Class B stock jumped nearly 14%, while AT&T ended the day slightly lower after hitting a record high earlier in the session. Wall Street came off one of the wildest weeks in 2021 that saw the S&P 500 fall 4% through midweek. Amid heightened inflation fears, the broad equity benchmark eventually rebounded and ended the week down just 1.4%. So, a couple different things moving along with here. The Discovery thing I'm a little bit interested in because there are rumors that one of my favorite web shows, The King of Random, might be moving to Discovery exclusive. And I don't know if they're going to take their whole back catalog with them, which is going to blow if they do because, I like the program. They got kind of a little bit weird just making gigantic versions of stuff towards the last few weeks, and I haven't been watching them as much, but back when their founder, Grant Thompson, was still alive, he was showing you how to make bullets and how to survive in a post-apocalyptic world and how to make a chain out of soda tabs and that kind of stuff. But I could see them, especially becoming a big YouTube contract, going and selling back out and going on to one of the TV networks as well. So I could see that possibly happening, and there's no confirmation. They just said they had a big announcement. That was the biggest rumor that was swirling through the comments, and, well, given what Discovery Plus does, I wouldn't be surprised either. If you guys haven't checked out The King of Random, go check it out. It's actually kind of fun, especially, like I said, if you can find those older episodes with Grant Thompson in them. And maybe you guys will make a forge at home where you can melt aluminum cans. I know I want to at some point. I just haven't had the time or the opportunity. But that's where we're going to go with that. Let's look into the big news of the week, or of the day at least. Starting today with CNN. Biden admin notified Congress of $735 million weapons sale to Israel earlier this month, before the violence began. From Kylie Atwood. The Biden admin notified Congress of a proposed U.S. weapons sale to Israel worth $735 million earlier this month, according to two sources familiar with the notification. The sale of the precision-guided weapons, which the admin approved before the latest outbreak of violence between Hamas and the Israeli government, is now being reviewed by Congress as concerns grow among progressive Democrats and the Biden admin remaining adamant that Israel has a right to defend itself from rocket attacks from Hamas. Israel has been part of the largest recipient of the U.S. foreign assistance since World War II, and this sale is one small part of overall U.S. military support. The U.S. pledged to provide $38 billion in military aid to Israel from 2019 to 2028 in an agreement between the two countries in 2016. Congress has 15 days to review the proposed sale, which it received notification of on May 5th, before it is finalized. The Washington Post was the first to report that the White House had notified Congress of the proposed sale. It's also where democracy goes to die in darkness. The sale is unlikely to be stopped by Congress, according to a source familiar with the matter. That's because this particular sale, like all sales to Israel, is going through an expedited congressional review process, which gives Congress a 15-day window to take action to stop it, instead of the usual 30-day review period. With just 4 days left in the review process and a requirement for the committees of jurisdiction to act to block the bill, there's virtually no chance of that happening, according to the source. The window has basically closed, the source says. There are expedited review processes for arms sales to NATO and its member states, Japan, South Korea, Israel, Australia, and New Zealand, according to the Pentagon. The State Department does not comment on pending sales, a spokesperson told CNN. Israel has purchased these precision-guided weapons from the U.S. in the past. It is believed that they are being used in the current military campaign on Gaza, two sources familiar with the sale said. This sale is part of the routine support to Israel, did not come about due to the recent escalating violence in the region, sources added. So, yeah, it looks like they were already looking to do this. It almost looks like they were trying to stop it at this point, just because they know that, Israel could straight up, with that kind of money, genocide the Palestinian people. And once again, it does look like they are the aggressors in this situation. So, a lot of stuff to watch on this. There is a lot of stuff to pay attention to with what's going on with Hamas, with Israel, and the fact that the U.S. government seems to be funding the entire thing. And it almost looks like they're funding both sides at this point. So, this is going through, and we will see what happens with this, if this escalates anything. Looking here from the Times of Israel, top Democrat looking to delay $735 million sale of precision missiles to Israel. From Jacob Magid. U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Gregory Meeks is considering sending the Biden admin a letter in the coming days requesting that it delay a $735 million sale of precision-guided missiles to Israel. Meeks wants the delay in order to give his panel time to review the purchase, a congressional staffer told the Times of Israel on Monday. Democrats on the committee met earlier in the day to discuss the ongoing violence in Israel and Gaza, and one of the members raised a Washington Post report that broke the story on Joe Biden's advancing of the weapons sale at the beginning of the month, the staffer said. Congress was notified of the proposed sale of the precision-guided munitions on May 5th, at least 6 days before the Palestinian terrorists in Gaza began firing towards Israel, the Post reported. But several members said during Monday's meeting that they had been unaware of the announcement. Meeks later responded that he was weighing a delay request in order to provide adequate time for the panel to weigh the sale, the staffer said, adding that members of the committee were split on the decision. Well, yeah, I probably would be too, and really honestly, given the fact that this happened at the beginning of May, and now we're sitting here looking at Israel and Palestine going back after each other, it'd be kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say weird because it's what we do all the time, but I don't see it as ethical to be selling weapons to a warring state in the middle of an aggressive ground war, no matter who the aggressor is at this point. I'd be staying the hell out of it if I could, but that's not the U.S. style, especially with Joe Biden, who has never seen a military action that he doesn't like. So this is probably going to go through. They're probably going to tell Meeks that he can go and screw off, and that's going to be the end of it, and they're going to come back and sell the weapons anyway. So we will see what happens with that. Oh, Ilhan got to weigh in too. Congress must intervene and stop the sale of these weapons. I can't believe I'm in agreement with Ilhan Omar, but, broken clock, right twice a day. So, we'll see what happens with that. Let's grab one here from Fox News for you guys. Israel-Gaza conflict continues to intensify. Rockets reported from Lebanon now. So they're not just coming from internally, from the Gaza Strip or the West Bank anymore. Now they're coming in from the neighbors. This is from Edmund DeMarche. After more than a week of fighting, appeals by major powers for calm, and a growing number of casualties, the conflict between Israel and Hamas continued to intensify Tuesday.
Calls for a ceasefire, but there does not appear to be an end in sight, at least now, for the conflict between
The conflict between Israel and Hamas continued to intensify Tuesday amid reports of rockets also being launched from Lebanon. On Monday, the 17th of May at around 11:30 p.m., UNIFIL detected firing of rockets from general area Rashaya al-Fakur, north of Kfar Kuba in South Lebanon, the UN interim force in Lebanon tweeted, according to the Washington Post. Jeez, go away, autoplay.
And hello.
I didn't want the first one. Why the fuck would I want the second one? IDF returned artillery fire directed at the location where the rocket originated. Israel said the half dozen from southern Lebanon rockets never reached the Israeli territory, and it is unclear what group was behind the launches. The New York Times, a former newspaper, reported that Hamas has fired 3,350 missiles and killed 9 civilians in Israel, at least 1 soldier. That seems like a lot of rockets for 9 people. That doesn't seem cost effective. Not that I want cost effectiveness coming up out of Palestine right now, because they're for the most part shooting them at innocent people, but regardless, if you are shooting that many rockets, and how much does a rocket cost? If you're shooting off that many for that low of a yield, you've probably got some problems with your internal military systems, which isn't necessarily a bad thing either. The paper, citing health officials in Gaza, reported that at least 212 Palestinians have been killed in the conflict, including 61 children. The UN said at least 800,000 lack access to safe drinking water, the report said. President Biden expressed support for a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza's militant Hamas ruler in a call to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday, but stopped short of demanding an immediate stop to the 8 days of Israeli airstrikes and Hamas rocket barrages that have killed more than 200 people, most of them Palestinian. Biden's carefully worded statement in a White House readout of his second known call to Netanyahu in 3 days, as the attacks pounded on, came with the administration under pressure to respond to more forcefully, despite the determination to wrench the U.S. foreign policy away from the Middle East conflicts. So, yeah, there's that. This is going to escalate. This is going to get worse. I did see rumors of a ground invasion yesterday in the live chat. I have not seen any confirmation of the ground assault, and I did look for it this morning because I do remember it was... what was the name of the dude? There was a guy in here yesterday. It was the first time I'd seen the guy's name. He was over on Twitch, and he pointed out that there was a ground invasion. If you can link me to that, throw it up in the chat, because I will definitely look into the ground invasion, but for the most part, it does look like it's just rockets still. So, but rockets are still shitty as well, and you definitely don't want to see anything like that keep going. So, We will continue to watch this as it goes. I've got one from... Oh, who made this one? I had to archive it. I don't know what the publication name is. Oh, Haaretz. I've got one from Haaretz. Gaza flare-up. 2 killed, 1 in serious condition after direct rocket hit in Israel's south. I've got no author given on this. Fighting between Israel and Hamas escalated in what has become the heaviest flare-up since the 2014 Gaza war. At least 213 people were killed in the Gaza Strip, and 10 in Israel in the most intensive aerial exchanges in years. On Saturday, an Israeli man was killed after a barrage of rocket fire targeted Tel Aviv and central Israel, shattering 2 days of calm in the region. Buildings and infrastructure have been damaged in several cities in central Israel, and the IDF downed a media tower housing offices of Al Jazeera, the Associated Press, and other media outlets. Israel carried out hundreds of air and several ground strikes in Gaza, but IDF troops did not enter Gaza. As part of the ground invasion, Gazan militants have fired some 3,000 rockets at central and southern Israel since last Monday. Let's do some live updates here. 2 foreign workers were killed. This is 2:42 p.m. Were killed by a rocket attack near the Gaza border. 1 person in serious condition, and 5 people were wounded. 2:31. Rocket sirens sounded in several Israeli cities and communities near the Gaza border. 2:06. Police have evidence linking suspects to firebombing of 12-year-old in Jaffa. Israel police have evidence linking a 30-year-old Arab Israeli man to the firebombing in Jaffa last week, which wounded a 12-year-old boy, Arab Israeli boy. Let's do a couple more of these quick. 1:49 p.m. All these times, I believe, are local times too, by the way. 19-year-old wounded by Gaza rocket shrapnel. A 19-year-old in Gaza periphery was wounded by a rocket shrapnel in its upper body. He's now being treated at the Barzilai Medical Center. And 141 Israeli soldiers lightly injured at Gaza border. I'm going to do one more after this. An Israeli soldier was lightly injured by a mortar shell at the Erez border, crossing to Gaza. He was wounded during the opening of the crossing for humanitarian aid. One more. 1:26 p.m., 50 rockets fired at Gaza border communities. As Israel's battle with Hamas lingers, something is liable to go wrong. Israel had no strategy or endgame for Gaza, and now it's paying the price. Israeli army deployed a secret strategic weapon against Hamas and reaped limited benefits. Anthony Blinken says, I saw no evidence Hamas operated in Gaza media building down by Israel. Oh, that's interesting. Now, can't confirm that, but if that is true, that is interesting, because that was the big part, and that was something we condemned last night, was Hamas and the Hamas leaders using the Associated Press and Al Jazeera as human shields. But if they weren't in the building at all, then we need to take another look at Israel over here. And I refuse to take sides on this, by the way. We talked a bit about this last night, too. As far as what we're doing in Israel and in Palestine, no matter what you say about it, you're in the wrong to somebody. And we saw this with Andrew Yang. We saw this last week when we were looking at this on this show. And we saw it last night on the other show. If you support Israel, you're a murderous genocidal maniac. And if you support Palestine, you're an anti-Semite, which is one of the worst things you can be called on the internet right now. So there's really no win. And neither of these sides should really be fighting at this point. There was a calm for a long time in that region, in spite of the tensions. In spite of everything that's gone on over the last 70 years there has been a calm. So, let me see. I think I got one more here for this. No, I don't have one more for this. But that's what we're seeing up out of the region. And of course, until this all calms down or the media finds something else to freak out about, we're going to keep watching this and see what happens. Maybe this will lead to us being on the ground over there. Maybe this will lead to civil war over here because of the massive divide between who supports who in this country and where it falls on political lines. So, let's continue to watch this. Let's see what happens with this, and let's move on. Shifting gears here, reading from KVUE ABC. This is out of Texas. Texas reports 0 COVID-19 deaths for the first time since tracking pandemic data, Governor Abbott says. From Paul Livengood. As the world continues its efforts to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, Texas recorded its first day ever with 0 fatalities in a single day, according to Governor Greg Abbott. The Texas Commie-Coof dashboard reports that there were 0 newly reported deaths and 388 new confirmed cases statewide. It is important to note that this data reported to the state is preliminary in the sense that a handful of counties do not report data on the weekends anymore, so that data could potentially be backlogged to Monday. Abbott said the case numbers reported Sunday were the lowest they've been seeing in more than 13 months. The governor also said the state reported the lowest 7-day positivity rate ever and the lowest recorded number of hospitalizations in the last 11 months. According to the state dashboard, Texas reported just under 2,200 hospitalizations. The last time Texas recorded that low amount of hospitalizations was 11th of June 2020, on par with Abbott's tweet sent on Sunday. The last time Texas recorded a single day of less than 500 cases was back in April of 2020, when the state reported 422 cases on April 13th. 40% of Texans are fully vaccinated as of May 13th, according to state data. The milestone comes as the CDC released new guidelines last week saying fully vaccinated people, those are 2 weeks past their final dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, can quit wearing masks outdoors in crowds and in most indoor settings and give up social distancing. To date, more than 2.4 million cases have been reported in the state, and more than 49,800 people in Texas have died, according to Texas Department of State Health Services. And, as always, I do need a citation on this because I think these numbers are bullshit. They're absolutely bullshit. And we should be paying a little bit closer attention to what the outside causes were, because this still does still seem high. But, hey, who am I to judge? I'm just sitting here behind a microphone in my bedroom, and I don't have these major journalistic degrees like the people over at Fox News or CNN do. So maybe we should just sit down and bow down to our corporate overlords and do whatever it is that the millionaires tell us to, except for when the progressives tell us that the millionaires are bad. So that's what we're seeing coming back up out of Texas, and congratulations to Texas if these numbers are true.
Starting next month, Texans who are out of work will stop getting an extra $300 per week.
Texas joining 18 other states in opting out of additional federal pandemic.
I gotta figure out what's playing. There it is. Found it. Sorry about that. On-air production. These publications that are owned by the same company, and it's the same one that owns Care 11 up in Minneapolis, and a couple of them over here as well. They just do that, and if you try to stop the video, they just play it again later on. And if you try to mute them and stop the video, they just unmute it eventually, here and there. So we will see what happens with that. All right, let's grab one here from CBS 4. You know, let's close that one, actually. Just in case, because I bet you that one's going to autoplay later on. Denver bar requires proof of COVID vaccination to drink inside without a face mask. From Andrea Flores. It's been more than a month since Bar Max off Colfax Avenue in Denver has required proof of COVID-19 vaccination for patrons to go inside. Now, in accordance with state and CDC guidelines, people can also go in without a mask as long as they provide proof. They can feel that relief and that enjoyment, said Bar Max owner Marshall Smith. When customers are here with everyone vaccinated, they don't have to socially distance, they don't have to wear masks, and they don't have to worry about it. It's still peace of mind and comfort. Lauren Bruns is a pediatrician. It's her first time back at Bar Max since before the pandemic started. It does feel more normal, Bruns told CBS 4's Andrea Flores. I feel comfortable knowing that the people around me are vaccinated, especially knowing that the support staff and wait staff are also protected. Makes me feel comfortable not putting my mask on every time they come to drop a drink off or food. It's not a cult, people. It's absolutely not a cult. It's not a religion either. Smith says people feel safe thanks to an extra layer of protection. Folks can actually talk to someone they don't know, which might be exciting for some folks who've been holed up for a year and change, he joked. With a 100% vaccination rate for the bar, patrons like Bruns hope it stays that way. There are many places you can go and have a drink, and if you don't want to prove that you're vaccinated, that's okay, Bruns said. You can go somewhere else and wear your mask. Smith says he will let science drive his decisions. Science! For the bar, for now, he will continue to require proof of vaccination and has no plans to change the policy. Well, good, then I'm not going to go there. That's one of the things with it, too. Is, you can go in and require your papers, please. Papers, please, sir. But I don't have to go to your place. And this is all the way out in Denver, so I have no intentions on going to Colorado for any reason anywhere in the world, but I wouldn't be surprised if, well, that's actually an interesting thought experiment. Let's think about what's happening here. And what I pointed out, and I pointed this out numerous times over on Twitter, the fact that you are creating a second class of citizens with this. You've got other bars probably in Denver. You've got other bars out in rural Colorado that don't require the vaccination card. They don't require your papers to enter. And do you think the people who actually have their papers are going to go patronize these places? In fact, they'll go back and leave horrible Yelp reviews of, oh, this place requires a vaccine. This place they won't require a vaccination. There might be dangerous people inside of here. Don't go to this bar. And then they're going to just go to the bars like Bar Max that require the vaccination. And yet the people who don't have the vaccination will only go to the establishments that don't require it because they don't have the vaccination. And we divide ourselves among lines even further. No chance to have discussion, no chance to talk, just segregate ourselves based on political ideology. Do you see where this might become a problem somewhere down the road? All right, let's keep going. From the Blaze. Yep. Go away. From the Blaze. Legendary guitarist Eric Clapton says he suffered a disastrous side effect from COVID-19 vaccine, blames propaganda insisting that they're safe. From David Urbanski. Legendary guitarist Eric Clapton said he suffered disastrous side effects from his COVID-19 vaccine treatments and blamed propaganda insisting that the shots are safe. Rolling Stone reported that the 76-year-old musician, known the world over for his stints with the Yardbirds and Cream in the 60s, as well as his long solo career marked by classic songs such as Layla and Wonderful Tonight, in February got an initial AstraZeneca vaccine shot. The magazine cited a letter Clapton wrote describing his ordeal to architect and anti-lockdown activist Robin Manati Grazide, who shared it with a guitarist's permission. Rolling Stone said it confirmed the authenticity of the letter, but that a Clapton rep didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. I took the first jab of AZ and straight away I had severe reactions which lasted 10 days, Clapton wrote in the letter. According to the magazine, I recovered eventually and was told that it would be 12 weeks before the second one. He added that about 6 weeks later I was offered and took the second AZ shot, but with a little more knowledge and the dangers, needless to say, the reactions were disastrous. My hands and feet were either frozen numb or burning, and pretty much useless for 2 weeks. I feared I would never play again, Rolling Stone said. Clapton also shared in the letter that he suffers from peripheral neuropathy and should never have gone near the needle, and said that the propaganda said the vaccine was safe for everyone, the magazine reported. I continue to tread the path of passive rebellion and try to toe the line in order to be able to actively love my family, but it's hard to bite my tongue with what I now know, the guitarist also wrote, according to Rolling Stone. Clapton hit the headlines last year for a related reason, an anti-lockdown song, Stand and Deliver, penned by iconic vocalist Van Morrison and recorded and released by Clapton. As you might imagine, the guitars took a lot of grief from the left over the tune, as did Morrison. In the letter, Clapton said, "I found my voice after being directed to Morrison and his new music," the magazine reported. "And even though I was singing his words, they echoed in my heart," Clapton added in the letter, according to Rolling Stone. "I recorded Stand and Deliver in 2020 and was immediately regaled with contempt and scorn. But don't worry, it's completely safe. Go and get the vaccine. Just hurry up, go get it. Go get it, everybody. The government wants you to, and the government wouldn't do anything to you that wasn't safe. And they definitely wouldn't require you to have this to live in decent society. Go get it. Hurry, hurry. Aren't you guys all excited to hurry up and go get the vaccine, you guys? Hurry up and get it. Hurry up, hurry up." All right, let's grab one here from Yahoo News. Biden's COVID warning. Unvaccinated will end up paying the price. From Paul Steinhauser. President Biden highlighted on Monday that for the first time since the coronavirus pandemic swept the nation early last year, cases of common cold are down in all 50 states. But in a pitch to encourage unvaccinated Americans to get their shots, the president warned that those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price. And Biden, in remarks from the White House, also announced that the U.S. will share millions of doses of coronavirus vaccines with other countries around the world. The president highlighted that deaths are down from COVID by 81%, which he said was their lowest level since April of 2020. But he cautioned that, I can't promise that it'll continue this way. We know that there will be advances and setbacks, and we know that May flare-ups could occur. But if the unvaccinated get vaccinated, then they'll protect themselves and other unvaccinated people around them. And the president warned that if they do not, states with low vaccination rates may see this progress reverse. Ultimately, those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price. The vaccinated will continue to be protected against severe illnesses, but others may not be if you're not vaccinated. The president stressed that we're not done fighting this virus, man. Come on. We still have tens of millions left to vaccinate. But we're making significant progress. In fact, when tomorrow's vaccination numbers come, they'll show that 60% of Americans have received at least one shot. Man. Biden also repeated his target date of having 70% of Americans receiving at least one COVID vaccine shot before July 4th. The president also announced that in addition to the 60 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which has not yet been approved for use in the U.S., that he's already committed to sharing with other nations, the country will also begin sending overseas doses of Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines when they become available. Biden emphasized that, come on, man, we need to fight the disease around the world to keep us safe here at home and do the right thing to help other people. It's the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do and the strong thing to do. So, hey, if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to pay the price. So saith our Lord and Savior, Joseph R. Biden Jr., under the direction of our Lord and Savior, Anthony Fauci. All right, let's grab one here from Axios. Shifting gears a little bit, but still talking about the coup, Cuomo to earn more than $5 billion from a pandemic book, from Ivana Sarik. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo reportedly earned $3.12 million last year from his book on running the state during the pandemic and could earn roughly another $2 million over the next 2 years, the New York Times, a former newspaper, reported on Monday. These figures come from financial disclosures released by Cuomo's office Monday afternoon, revealing that earnings from the book far eclipsed his governor's salary of about $225,000 per the Times. Why the hell is a governor getting $225,000 to live? Other than the fact that he votes for his own pay raises. Richard Azzopardi, a spokesperson for Cuomo, told the Times Monday that the governor had earned only about $1.5 million after expenses and taxes, and that part of the earnings had gone to New York's COVID relief effort and into a trust for Cuomo's daughters. Cuomo's book, American Crisis, Leadership Lessons from the COVID-19 Pandemic, was published last October and became a bestseller, partly in due to Cuomo's then popularity and frequent televised briefings during the start of the pandemic. Book sales slowed this year as Cuomo became entangled in controversies regarding the nursing home deaths and sexual harassment allegations. In March, his publisher, Crown, halted promotion of the book and any plans for a paperback edition amid the federal investigation into New York's pandemic nursing home deaths, which the world conveniently forgot about up until people started talking about it once again. So, we're sitting here, this guy, the grabby guy, the guy who put grandma in the nursing home, is going to make $5 million on this shitty fucking book. Which I don't understand. The world knows that he fucked up. So I don't know if this is just some charitable foundation that's buying up these books and distributing them to immigrant children in California, or using them as firewood, or what the hell the deal is, but somebody's buying these books and he's going to get millions of bucks off of them. And I do understand that the optics say that the Democrat politicians who have the books out there can't be seen as failures. But regardless, $5 million for this book. Have you guys read it yet? All right, from the Daily Wire. Shifting gears, let's talk a bit about government. Biden admin waives ethics rules for former lobbyists. From Mareed McArdle. The Biden admin touted 8 tight ethics rules for officials, but the president has since waived the rules for several lobbyists, turn officials, including a former union official who now works for the agency that oversees the federal workforce, and an immigration official who previously lobbied for Amnesty International, records show. Soon after Biden was inaugurated, he signed his strict ethics restrictions intended to curtail the revolving door between special interests and government jobs. The admin's rules ban incoming officials from receiving compensation from their previous employers for snagging a job in the government, sometimes called golden parachutes, among other new restrictions. Since then, however, the presence of former lobbyists and shadow lobbyists, or individuals in corporate positions who work to affect public policy but are not required to formally register as lobbyists, has raised eyebrows even among left-leaning groups. Last year, at least 40 current and former lobbyists became members of Biden's transition team. Sharanya Krishnasamy was brought out in February to serve as senior counselor to Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas. In order for her to take the role, the administration granted Krishnasamy an ethics waiver for her previous work as a registered lobbyist in a slew of immigration issues at the left-wing human rights group Amnesty International. Without the waiver, Krishnasamy would have had to recuse herself for 2 years from creating policy in areas in which she lobbied for amnesty during the 2 years prior to her joining the administration. She is still prohibited from being involved in issues that would directly affect amnesties financially. Complying with ethics requirements would result in serious limitations and inefficiencies for the department. Acting White House Office of Management and Budget Director Robert Fairweather wrote in his February 9th ethics waiver for Krishnasamy. Managing an ongoing recusal for Ms. Krishnasamy will impact several of the department's important missions, Fairweather wrote, concluding that it is in the public interest to grant waiver to Krishnasamy. Krishnasamy, how many times am I going to have to say that name, was Amnesty's advocacy director for the Americas for 2 years before her appointment to the Biden admin, during which time she studied the government alongside Amnesty lobbyists on a range of issues. Her writing appeared in the Washington Post and Slate, where she wrote in favor of promoting abortion globally. Wow, that sounds quite interesting. Amnesty International has pushed for politicians internationally to stop associating illegality with immigration. In 2018, the group published a report ripping President Trump's immigration policies as having caused catastrophic irreparable harm to thousands of people, saying they have spurned and manifestly violated both U.S. and international law and appeared to be aimed at fully dismantling the U.S. asylum system. The report included a section devoted exclusively to transgender asylum seekers. So, and that's just one example of this, and if there's one, I wouldn't be surprised to find out if there were more. I know that there were 40 lobbyists in the transition team. This is according to the article. And they focused on this one woman, Krishna Sami, but how many more people are being waived for this? Here's another one. Natasha Billy Moria, an administrator for the Agency for International Development, which administers civilian foreign aid from the U.S., received a waiver for her work as Director of U.S. Strategy at Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance. Gavi pursues a goal to make new and underutilized vaccines more affordable and accessible to lower-income countries. And during her time there, Billa Moria was charged with broadening support and funding for Gavi and its activities around the world. According to her waiver, Gavi's original partners included the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the World Bank, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The administration has so far granted ethics waivers to at least 8 officials. Marianne Engelman-Lado, an attorney for the EPA, was granted an ethics waiver for her work with the Natural Resources Defense Council, a progressive environmental advocacy group that strongly supports the Green New Deal. Dr. Suhas Miki Tripathi, serving as National Coordinator for Health Information Technology at the Department of Health and Human Services, was granted a waiver for his work with health data nonprofits Health Level 7 and Sequoia Project. And finally, Aviva Aron Dine, an Office of Management and Budget official, received a waiver allowing her to communicate with the the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, a progressive think tank where she was vice president for health policy. And you gotta ask, you really gotta ask, throw the shoe on the other foot. If this is a Bush, oh, I just got a chill up my spine. I had the thought of a Bush as a president, and I got legitimately scared for a second. But if this was a Bush or a DeSantis or somebody else like that who was granting these waivers as well, what would the media be saying? The media would be fucking melting down over the fact that, well, he's just making a revolving door for his buddies. But, you know, we have to go to the Daily fucking Wire to even know that this is happening, because nobody else will report on this. All right, let's grab one here from Fox 32 out of Chicago. Millions of households to begin receiving child tax credit payments in July, from Mike Flannery. President Biden said Monday his new Cash for Kids program will start sending money to families on July 15th. Up to 39 million households are eligible, but they must file a federal tax return to qualify, even if they do not owe any taxes. Families will receive $300 a month for children up to age 6 and $250 a month for youngsters up to age 17. So, if you're a working family with 2 kids, the president said, you're going to get $500 a month into your bank account. The program is currently set to run from July through December. Former Obama admin Education Secretary Aaron Duncan is a big fan of the direct payments to poor and working poor households. He said that during a similar program in California, the largest category of purchases with the government dollars was food. It also defrayed housing costs, Dabrowski said. People need meaning in their lives, and we've already seen that all these subsidies to workers right now is keeping them from going back to work. Many companies, they can't hire people right now. President Biden predicted Monday that Cash for Kids would cut childhood poverty in half this year, or completely devalue the dollar and make childhood poverty skyrocket. One of these two things is going to happen, and I don't know which one it is, but yeah, hey, everybody's going to go be getting a whole bunch of money. And I have to wonder if there is an income cutoff for this too. Like, if you're making $100,000 a year or something, if you're still getting this, or if this is just for the poor people, if this is universal. Is this universal basic income? And really, honestly, where does the money come from? Where does it come from? Because your tax receipts, if your jobs market is true, your tax receipts are going to be down by a massive amount come January. By a pretty major amount. And they're probably going to be down coming in this year too. So I don't know where you're picking this money back up off of, and if the money printer has to go burr to do it, but they're coming. All right, let's grab one here from NPR for you guys. What the new monthly child tax credits mean for you and your family. They mean that you can donate $300 a month or $250 a month to NPR. Wouldn't you rather do that than feed your family? We'll let the government feed your family because it's not your money, comrade, it's our money. So make sure you donate those child tax dollars out to NPR. National Progressive Radio, spreading the communist ideals. It's not your money, comrade, it's our money. This is from Vanessa Romo. Roughly 39 million American families are eligible for monthly payments of up to $300 through the newly expanded child tax credit starting July 15th, the IRS and the U.S. Treasury Department announced on Monday. The Advanced Child Tax Credit Program is part of the Biden admin's $1.9 trillion economic aid package called the American Rescue Plan that was passed in March. It increases the existing tax benefits from $2,000 to $3,600 for younger kids and $3,000 for older ones for the 2021 tax year. For working families with children, the tax cut sends a clear message. Help is here, President Biden said in a Monday statement. Oh, those are frightening words. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. Doesn't that make you feel safer and more secure? Doesn't that make you feel better? Instead of forcing parents to wait until the following year after filing annual income taxes, the relief checks are in advance on half of what they'd typically be entitled to get. In this case, eligible families qualify for up to $300 per month for each child under 6 years old and up to $250 for each child from 6 to 17. So a family with 3 kids, ages 5, 7, and 16, could see an extra $800 a month in their bank account through the latter half of the year. The credit goes away once the child reaches 18. The amounts could be smaller depending on the parent's income, and the IRS said final payments amounts will be determined by 2020 tax returns or 2019 filings if the 2020 documents have not been processed in time. And it urges those who have yet to file to do so as soon as possible to make sure that they're eligible for the appropriate amount. Deposits will be made. There's the donate link. Will be made from July through December. The payments that represent the first half of 2020 will be provided later in a lump sum. Payments will be automatically deposited into accounts on file with the IRS without any additional action required. But the boost is temporary. Congress must pass the American Families Plan to ensure that working families will be able to count on this relief for years to come, Biden said. So, there's your hook right there. Yeah, hey man, I'm gonna get you on that government dole, okay, man? And now then you're gonna realize how nice it is, and then you're gonna demand it every year from here on out. Come on, man, just get all that good government money, man. So, with that, I guess you guys are gonna start getting cash in your bank account for all your kids. All right, let's see what the Hill has to say here. White House environmental justice advisors express opposition to demands that you turn your ad blocker off. White House environmental justice advisors express opposition to nuclear carbon capture projects. From Rachel Frazine. The White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council expressed opposition to nuclear and carbon capture projects, as well as projects that expand capacity for fossil fuel production, in a report issued on Friday. The Volunteer Advisory Council listed such projects as among examples of the types of projects that will not benefit a community in a set of recommendations issued with the White House. The recommendations issued by the Council, which is made up of the leaders of the environmental justice movement, are meant to advise the Biden admin, but don't necessarily reflect the admin policy. In fact, the opposition appears to be somewhat at odds with policies the administration has backed, like President Biden's promotion of a carbon capture tax credit in his infrastructure plan. The report did not specify why the advisory panel considers such projects not to be beneficial, but opponents have raised concerns about nuclear waste. Carbon capture's opponents have expressed skepticism about the still developing technology aimed to capture the greenhouse gas from activities like burning fossil fuels. They argue that the government should be boosting the fossil fuel industry. And there it is. It's not about actually being environmental or catching these carbon and reburning it, which would be a good idea, actually, if you could find a way to capture the carbon that's coming out of these and use it as a fuel for the next time around, you don't have to pull as much out of the ground. But there it is right there. We shouldn't be supporting the fossil fuel industry. Just shut it all down. Shut it all down. Put all these people up out of work. Get them up on the government dole as well. As far as nuclear, hey, why would we ever need so much power in an almost emissionless form? The only emission is steam. Why would we ever need this much power for that? Oh, it might melt down. And you notice when the push for nuclear came out, they had to put Chernobyl right out there on Netflix so everybody could go out and see it and get scared to death about the fact that if we have nuclear power, it might destroy the world. So, yeah, I can see where the opposition comes from off of this. I like the idea of carbon capture, and I don't know enough about it. I mean, I've seen stuff that would be the precursor to carbon capture, like the DEF on a heavy-duty truck. I'm sorry, not the DEF, the DPF. The DPF on a heavy-duty truck that's been on their standard equipment mandated by the government since 2007. Think about what that'll do. That's capturing the carbon in a filter. And they're just reburning it off so it gets broken down more. It's not just regular carbon sitting out there. So it goes back into the building blocks of life rather than having your carbon monoxide and just your raw hydrocarbons going out there. They're just reburning that off at that point. But if you can capture that and reuse that in a power plant or something else like that, I'm interested in the idea, and I should look more into this because that's a good idea. I know how emissions work, and if you can reuse that stuff, then hell, reuse it. So we'll look into that. All right, let's grab one here from CNN. Nancy Pelosi extends House proxy voting through July 3rd. From Annie Grayer. House Speaker Pelosi extended the period in the House that allows for members to vote by a proxy to July 3rd. The Speaker announced in a letter on Monday. The current proxy voting period has been set to expire on Wednesday. The updated guidance comes as the House grapples with how to reopen amid loosening coronavirus restrictions in Washington and around the country. The attending physician for the House of Representatives, Brian P. Monahan, has eased mask wearing at the Capitol somewhat, but instructed that masks must still be worn in the hall of the House and in committee meetings until all members are vaccinated. Good luck with that. According to a recent CNN survey, 100% of congressional Democrats and 92% of Senate Republicans have been vaccinated against the commie coof, while only 44% of House Republicans were. The House passed a change to its rules in May of 2020 in the early months of the pandemic, allowing lawmakers to designate proxies to vote on their behalf, sending letters to the House clerk. So, yep, they can still come in and have somebody else vote for them. And, I mean, we saw how that happened in the second Star Wars movie, or Episode 2, rather. We saw how well that worked. I mean, this could never go wrong for any reason whatsoever. But one of the things to look at with this as well is you're not going to pick somebody who is not going to vote in your best interest to go and vote your proxy either. So we will see what goes on with that. Let's grab one here from the Dissociated Press. Supreme Court to take up major abortion rights challenge. From Mark Sherman. Go away. Start your morning with AP Morning Wire. Go away. The Supreme Court agreed Monday to a showdown over abortion in a case that could dramatically alter nearly 50 years of rulings on abortion rights. With 3 justices appointed by President Trump, part of a 6-3 conservative majority, the court is taking up a case on whether states can ban abortions before a fetus can survive outside the womb. Mississippi, which is asking to be allowed to enforce the abortion ban after 15 weeks of pregnancy, is not asking the court to overrule the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, confirming a woman's right to an abortion. That's a right to privacy, but okay. You guys are going to continue to say that this is all about the right to abortion forever. We've been hearing this since the 80s. When I was in kindergarten, we were hearing about this shit. Or a decision 19 years later reaffirming it. But the abortion rights supporters say the case is a clear threat to abortion rights. The court cannot uphold the law without overturning the principal protections of Roe v. Wade, Nancy Northup, the president and the CEO of the Center for Reproductive Rights, said in a call with reporters. See, that's a misnomer too, because it's really not the Center for Reproductive Rights. It's the Center for the Rights to Stop Reproducing, essentially. Even if the court does not explicitly overrule earlier cases, a decision favorable to the state could lay the groundwork for allowing even more restrictions on abortion, including state bans on abortion once a fetal heartbeat is detected as early as 6 weeks. The case probably will be argued in the fall, with a decision likely in the spring of 2022 during the campaign for congressional midterm elections. Yeah, probably. Mississippi's ban has been blocked by lower courts as inconsistent with Supreme Court precedent that protects a woman's right to obtain an abortion before the fetus can survive outside the womb. States may regulate abortion procedures prior to viability, so long as they do not impose an undue burden on the woman's right, but they may not ban abortions. The law is at issue is a ban, Judge Patrick Higginbottom of the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals wrote in affirming a lower court ruling that invalidated the law. So, what it looks like right now, and according to this, more than 90% of abortions take place in the first 13 weeks of the pregnancy, according to the CDC. And yeah, it's still wrong, and I don't like it either way, but I'm not in the business of telling other people what they can and can't do as long as their doctor's okay with it. Which we should be looking at some of the doctors that would be okay with this, but that's another issue. I could spend an entire contemporary talking about this. I could spend an entire Ed Talk talking about this. But regardless of this, this should always have been a states' rights issue. This was never supposed to be a federal issue. I don't see anywhere in the Constitution where all powers and rights not guaranteed or granted by this document are relegated to the states. I don't see that except for abortion anywhere in the Constitution, and I've read it. Except in the case when you want to kill your offspring. That's not anywhere in that document. So, yeah, with that, we'll see what happens off of this, and I'm sure that people are going to be screaming because this is going to go right up into the midterms too. All right. Let's see what we've got here. Michiganders react to this. This is from WLNS 6 out of Lansing. Michiganders weigh in on U.S. Supreme Court taking abortion case. From Sarah Al-Shaikh. The U.S. Supreme Court announced today that it will weigh in on a case challenging Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban. The decision could impact abortion laws across the nation, including in Michigan. The court's decision to take the case has some concern about what this might mean for women's reproductive rights, while others are hopeful. Genevieve Marnon is someone excited about the court's decision. The first thought was, oh gosh, I can't believe this is real, Marnon said. Marnon is the legislative director for the nonprofit Right to Life of Michigan. She supports the U.S. Supreme Court taking the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization's case from Mississippi. We've been wanting this kind of case to make its way to the Supreme Court for years, Marnon said. This case dates back to 2018. The Mississippi legislature passed a law banning abortions after 15 weeks. A U.S. Court of Appeals blocked the law because right now states cannot ban abortions before fetal viability, which is around 22 weeks or later. But now this case has made it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the justices have decided to review it. Marnon said this is a step towards overturning a different landmark case from 1973. The fact that Supreme Court is willing to hear this case tells me that they're going to potentially review Roe v. Wade, Marnon said. Marnon said the court's decision in this case wouldn't just impact Mississippi. It sends the decision back to each individual state, and they can decide for themselves as an individual state whether they're going to allow abortion fully, not at all, or with some restrictions, Marnon said. Yeah, and what do you think is going to happen in Michigan? Deep blue controlled Michigan. What do you think is going to happen there? Because in fact, I see that as them getting more lenient with abortion. Oh, hey, 9 months? Oh, you're crowning? Oh, you can still get that abortion right now. So, yeah, there's the reaction there, but I'm sure that a bunch of other people up in Michigan are pretty pissed about this as well. So, we'll see what happens with that. Let's grab another one here from National Progressive Radio. Another Supreme Court case that's coming down through the pipes. Let's see what's going on with that. Oh, I got 3 National Progressive Radio ones today. So, Supreme Court restricts police authority to enter home without a warrant. From Nina Totenberg. Remember, give them your money, because they have 3 articles featured on this show, which means they need to have more quiet microphones so they can transmit their progressive ideas. Let's see what Nina Totenberg has to say about this. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled unanimously Monday against warrantless searches by police and seizures in the home in a case brought by a man whose gun officers confiscated after a domestic dispute. The very core of the Fourth Amendment's guarantee is the right to a person to retreat into his home, and there will be free from unreasonable government intrusion, Justice Clarence Thomas wrote for the court. The case involved a heated argument between a long-married couple, Edward and Kim Caniglia. He brought out a gun and told her to shoot him to put him out of his misery. Then after he left the house in a huff, she hid the gun and spent the night in a motel. The next morning, unable to reach her husband, she asked the police to escort her home because she was afraid that he might have harmed himself. Police found the husband on the front porch and sent him for a psych eval. Later that day, doctors concluded he was not a threat to himself or others and released him. In the meantime, police had confiscated his guns and munitions, so he sued, alleging an illegal search and seizure of his home. The lower courts ruled that the police could enter the home, and under the so-called community caretaking exception to the Constitution's warrant requirement. But Thomas, writing for the unanimous court, noted that the recognition that police officers perform many civic tasks in modern society was just that, a recognition that these tasks exist and not an open-ended license to perform them anywhere. What is reasonable for vehicles is different from what's reasonable for homes, he wrote. So, there's a win right there. Now, at this point, this needs to get pushed further. No unreasonable search and seizure for your car. No unreasonable search and seizure for what's in your yard. But yes, we win at this point. The police need a warrant for search and seizure of your house, and this is going to be a detriment to red flag laws too. It's not going to completely put them out of their misery yet, but it's going to be a huge detriment to them. Because now they can't come back without a warrant. Now they can't just come back on it. Oh, well, I think my conservative neighbor is going to harm himself, or he's going to go harm somebody else. My conservative neighbor, my conservative uncle is going to do something bad. You better go take his guns. Well, now without a warrant. So good job. Good job on that, Supreme Court. I like this. I like this very much. If today was Thursday, this would be a thing that I like. All right, let's see what else we have here. You remember the Molly Tibbetts case? I barely remember it because that was just when I was starting to get into alt media and the mainstreams were not covering it. So I started doing alt media and getting into it and watching it regularly, like right as the tail end of this case was coming up. So I don't know a whole lot about it. So I'm sure when I go back to read the chat later on after the show, you guys are going to school me and educate me on this one. But let's see what KHQA has to say. That is ABC CBS 7. Trial for man accused of killing Molly Tibbetts begins on Monday. From Symphony Sherman. The trial for the man accused of murdering Molly Tibbetts, Christian Bahina Rivera, is set to begin jury selection on Monday. Tibbetts went missing on July 18th of 2018 while out for a run in her hometown of Brooklyn, Iowa. The 20-year-old University of Iowa student was missing for more than a month before investigators found her body in a cornfield in rural Poweshiek County. Investigators say Bahina Rivera led them to Tibbetts' body. The trial was originally scheduled in Poweshiek County, but was moved to Scott County to allow for a fair trial. But they couldn't do that for Derek Chauvin. Interesting. Iowa's News now will have a crew covering the trial and will bring you the latest on air and online. Shannon Moody will be providing more frequent updates from the courtroom on her Twitter account. So this isn't really, we're not seeing the fire of this and not reviewing what happened with Molly Tibbetts except for the bare bones details of this, but Yeah, it looks like this is ready to go, so this is something we'll probably be watching in the next few weeks. So keep an eye on that. Let's grab one more here from NPR for you guys. Judge I's December 6th trial date for ex-cop charged in Daunte Wright killing. From Matt Sepik. We got to Palatable Wares because you got to donate to National Progressive Radio. Don't you want them to spread their communist ideas? Don't you want that? Tell them that you want that. Give them our money, comrade. Give them all of our money. Because they can't do enough on taxpayer money. They need support from viewers like you. Let's see what Matt Sepik has to say. A judge in Hennepin County, Minnesota, on Monday said probable cause exists to support the charge of second-degree manslaughter. I would maybe go third, but, you're the judge. Against former Brooklyn Center officer Kim Potter in the killing of Daunte Wright. During a brief court appearance via video conferencing, Judge Regina Chu said she viewed December 6th as a good date for the trial to begin. She also offered her condolences to Wright's family. Prosecutor Imran Ali said she was still determining when expert witnesses might be available to testify. Ali filed a motion asking Chu to allow cameras in the courtroom for the trial. Defense attorney Earl Gray said he plans to object. Is that dude's name really Earl Grey? That's awesome. I wonder if he likes tea. Potter is expected to plead not guilty, but has yet to formally enter a plea. Potter was one of several officers attempting to arrest Wright during an early April traffic stop. Officials said Potter had intended to stun the man with her taser gun and subdue him, but accidentally drew her handgun instead and fired once, hitting Wright in the chest. Wright's family attorney disputes the shooting was accidental, arguing that Potter, a 26-year police veteran, would have been able to feel the difference between a taser and her 9mm service handgun. Police have said Wright was pulled over for expired tags, but they sought to arrest him after discovering an outstanding warrant, which is standard practice, by the way. The warrant was his failure to appear in court on charges that he fled from officers and had a gun without a permit during an encounter with the Minneapolis police in June. And, the warrant that he had in Wisconsin as well. So, and once again, I don't understand where they think that this is going to be a major need-to-be televised trial, or why we need to have expert witnesses on this. I would actually quite expect Potter, given the actions that because she pretty well turned herself in from the beginning of this. Once the grand jury comes forward, I'm pretty sure she's going to come out and say, Your Honor, I'm guilty. So, with that, do we even need to have a trial at this point? Or are they just hoping to sell more commercials coming back off of this? I don't know, but we'll see what happens with this. Let's grab, I got just a few more here, then we'll do Twitter trending for the day. From Yahoo News, voter machine audit comes up with new totals in Windham. The first review of the forensic audit of Windham elections returns has produced different vote totals than were reported right after the November 3rd election. The 4 Republican candidates for state representative in Windham each got roughly 220 more votes through an audit of automated vote counting machines than were reported on election day. Meanwhile, Christy St. Laurent, the top finishing Democrat, got about 125 fewer votes from the audit than announced on November 3rd. I think this is in England, now that I'm looking at this. Oh no, this is here. Meanwhile, Christy St. Laurent, the top finishing Democrat, got about 125 fewer votes from an audit then announced on November 3rd. The audit of the 4 AccuVote machines used to count ballots in Windham wrapped up over the weekend. Volunteers began Monday the hand recounting of all ballots in the case cast in the races for state rep, governor, and U.S. senator. Mark Lindeman, one of the 3-person audit team, urged the volunteers to carefully examine ballots with fold lines in them as the automated voting machines improperly counted some of them as votes. In some cases, the fold lines are being interpreted by the scanners as valid votes, Lindeman said. That's something we especially want to encourage to look for at the table. Harry Husty, another member of the audit team, said the hand recount could take more than a week to complete. Husty said that she would not be surprised if the audit came up with vote totals different than found either on the automated machines or after the November hand recount. The legislature and Governor Chris Sununu ordered the audit after there was a wide discrepancy in the votes counted by the machines and then in a hand recount on November 12th. On Election Day, Republican Julius Soti finished the fourth to take the last of 4 seats for state rep by 24 votes over St. Laurent, but Soti's win grew to 420 votes after the hand recount. So this is up out of New Hampshire, and we're seeing already some of the problems that we had with mail-in votings, including the lines where the paper was creased are counting up as votes. So that's definitely something to watch for as the Maricopa County one continues on. But we're not hearing anything about this anymore, except for when they want to come back and discredit it. We're finding problems left and right. There may actually be a problem here. Or something that they tried to push through deliberately. Whoops, that wouldn't happen. So, with that, we will see what's going on with that, and we'll continue to watch what's happening in Arizona. Let's grab one here from CNBC. This one I thought was funny as shit. Just the headline screams desperation off of this. Excuse me. From CNBC. Millionaires who favor raising taxes on the rich launch protests in front of the Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos' home on tax day. From Brian Schwartz. There's the picture right there. Tax me if you can. Millionaires who are called on the rich to pay more in taxes are launching protests in New York and Washington on Monday, tax day, including in front of Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos' homes. The effort is being organized by the patriotic millionaires whose members boast annual incomes of over $1 million or assets worth over $5 million. The details of the effort were first shared with CNBC. Boy, you guys are fucking dumb. My God. You can donate more money. I can get you the link. If you really want to give away your money to the government who's going to fucking waste it, you can do that. You can put it right into the general slush fund. We've talked about this on numerous occasions, especially when they had the GoFundMe to go build the wall. The group plans to launch its tax day campaigns on Monday and includes mobile billboards that will make stops in front of Bezos' home in New York and Washington. Leaders of the patriotic millionaires told CNBC they are organizing a group of 30 protesters to converge on Bezos' New York residence with a billboard that says, "Cut the bullshit, tax the rich." Just give away your money, you idiots. Just give all your money away. It's that easy. Fucking touch between all of them. Goddamn all of them. All right. This is an older article, but I thought you guys would enjoy this here from the New York Post. Controversial billboard calls Biden Harris shitheads in Maryland. From Lee Brown. The vulgar Maryland billboard is causing a real stink for calling President Biden and Vice President Harris shitheads. Let me get rid of this autoplay here. The sign on Route 4 in Huntington shows the cartoon faces of the smiling commander-in-chief and his number 2 stuck on top of large emoji-style drawings of poop. "Don't blame Trump. You are stuck with these 2 shitheads," it reads. Sending the message home with more than 2 more poop images, the billboard is signed "From all of your deplorables in Calvert County," referring to Hillary Clinton's now infamous put-down of Trump supporters. The crass sign on private property and of legal size does not appear to break any local laws, but has sparked mass outrage, especially among local Democrats. Oh, you don't say! Democrats might be outraged if you go after their religious leaders. It's just vulgar, Jeanette Flame, chair of the Calvert County Democratic Central Committee, told Fox 5 DC. Kids are going to school and they're going to be going by it every day, and parents are driving to kids. "Won't you think of the children? My God, the children! Oh, the children!" Where they went to school and learned much, much worse words than that. usually from their peers, but it's getting to the point where they're getting from their teachers too. She also told the Southern Maryland Chronicle that the deeply disturbing sign does not reflect the values of our country, regardless of party. And it certainly should be what our visitors remember us for, Flame said. Still, despite the outrage, the sign has stayed put. There's nothing that we as the county government can do for language that's on a legal sign, Board of the County Commissioners President Buddy Hance told Fox 5. You know, this country was built on the foundations of free speech, and sometimes we like what the free speech says, and sometimes we don't, Hance said. So, yeah, that's just funny. I'm sorry. I wish the New York Post put a picture of the billboard up. I found it on Instagram, so I've seen the billboard. And yeah, it is. Don't blame Trump. You have these shitheads now. All right, couple more here. From the Blaze, Joe Rogan says kowtowing to woke progressives will result in straight white men losing their right to speak. From Sarah Taylor. Podcast host Joe Rogan said that straight white men will soon lose their rights to speak if they bow to progressives. During a recent discussion with comedian Joe List, Rogan said that cancel culture is too rampant to enter any sort of edgy territory when it comes to comedy. You can never be woke enough, Rogan said. That's the problem. If it keeps going further and further down the line, you get to the point where you agree to all these demands, and we'll eventually get to a point where the straight white men are not allowed to talk. The popular podcaster added that the suppression of free thought and free expression will become so ingrained to the American psyche that it will be second nature to do so as they are told, rather than question or speak out against the new norm. Hey man, well they'll say it's your privilege to express yourself when other people of color have been silenced throughout history, Rogan reasoned. You're not allowed to go outside because so many people were in prison for so many years, and I mean, I'm not joking. Joe Rogan Experience host added, it'll really get there. It's that crazy. You guys tried DMT? Looks like we've got some video. Let's see how short or how long this is and see if we can pick some of this up.
You can never be woke enough. That's the problem. It keeps going. It keeps going further and further and further down the line. And if you get to the point where you capitulate, where you agree to all these demands, it will eventually get to straight white men are not allowed to talk.
Right.
Because it's your privilege to express yourself when other people of color have been silenced throughout history. It will be you're not allowed to go outside because so many people were imprisoned for so many years. I mean, I'm not joking.
No, I know.
It really will get there. It's that crazy. You know, we just got to be nice to each other, man. And there's a lot of people that are taking advantage of this weirdness in our culture, and then that becomes their thing. Their thing is calling people out for their privilege, calling people out for their position. You know, it's fucking crazy times.
Yeah, most definitely. But I do feel like
you can never be woke enough.
You guys tried DMT? I mean, he's got a point to this too. It does look like, and it looks like it's, well, let me rephrase that. It looks like it is for a political purpose, but it does look like they're trying to mask this as a way to make up for and make reparations to everything that's happened since 1619. That's what they're trying to feed to people, but it does look like it's for political purposes, because when you could shut up the biggest demographic that votes for your opponents, then you'll never lose an election again. So, and I do fear that that's the direction that they're trying to go. I just want the government to leave me alone, man. All right, last one. Then we will do Twitter trending. From Yahoo Finance, Parler returns to the App Store. Coming to Yahoo Finance by Engadget. From John Fingus. Parler has returned to Apple's App Store after it was forced out in January, albeit with some limitations. The Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, reports that the social network's iOS app has resurfaced largely as if if slightly later than promised, but now hides posts marked by hate by Parler's AI-based moderation system. You'll have to use an Android device or the web to see these posts, although you'll still have to click through to see them. Company policy chief Amy Peikoff maintained that Parler allowed the maximum amount of legally allowed speech, but acknowledged that a good relationship with Apple was key to its app's future. Parler still hoped it could persuade Apple to allow a click-through option to see hate speech. We've asked Apple for comment. The company also announced a new CEO, George Farmer, would be taking over for departing interim CEO Mark Meckler. Farmer has been serving as COO since March. Apple kicked out Parler in the wake of January 6th, the U.S. Capitol Selfie Fest, arguing that the social media firm hadn't done enough to curb the threats of violence and illegal activity. Amazon and Google also cracked down on the service, rendering it inaccessible in any form until February, and while Apple gave Parler relatively short notice to outline a content moderation plan that would have avoided the ban, Parler had been warned about violent posts for months leading up to the riot. The site had been reluctant to implement stricter moderation or otherwise crack down, citing its free speech principles. And yet, it has been demonstrated statistically that the majority of the planning for the Capitol Hill Selfie Fest happened on Facebook. It didn't happen on Parler. It didn't happen on Gab. The majority of everything that went through there happened on Facebook, and yet Facebook never saw a day of interruption. Not a single day of service through the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. Because Zuckerberg walked up to Sundar Pichai and Tim Cook and said, "You must leave my app on your phones because I must consume data. I need data so I can sell to China, so I can get new charging ports for my circuits. More data, please. Make sure I get all the data." So, according to this, neither Apple nor Google have restored Parler as of this writing. So, yeah, absolutely. So, if you want Parler and you have an Apple, then you have Parler. I have a Parler. I never use it. But you can do it on desktop too, so there's that. All right, that's it. We're done with the news. And the last thing that we do on Tuesday is Twitter trending. So let's get over to the Twitter page, to the home page. Give it some time, it's still thinking. To the Explore page. On trending, we will skip the Tuesday thoughts, Tuesday motivations, and Tuesday vibes, and we will get good 5 trends that are going on here. Number 1, which is our number 2 trend today, is Shrek. The years start coming and they don't stop coming. It's been 20 years since the U.S. release of the movie Shrek. Shrek is 20. Shrek is 20 years old. Do you feel old yet? That came out... When did I watch that? It was when my choir was going up to sing the national anthem at a Timberwolves game. Was the first time I saw it. It was already the DVD at that point. So... there you go. I saw that for the first time on a coach bus, actually, not a school bus. On a coach bus, headed up towards the Twin Cities. But there you go, 20 years for Shrek. I should watch that movie again. I haven't seen that, I don't think, since... Honestly, I don't think I've seen that movie since I was in high school. All right, Val Demings, our second one for the day, number 4. Politico reports that Orlando Democrat Val Demings is considering running for U.S. Senate against incumbent Republican Marco Rubio. Okay. Good luck. People are flocking to Florida to vote for Republicans because the governor is easing all the mandates down there. And yes, I know that it's going to be the 2022 election for governor is going to be the freest and most fair election ever. And there's not going to be any sign of anything. But you know what, Val? Good luck. All right, Andrew Giuliani is our third trend. According to the New York Post, Andrew Giuliani announces his 2022 bid for New York governor, which he's been tossing that around for a little while. And yes, it appears it's official at this point. He's going to go try to run for governor against Andy Cuomo. That'll be interesting. 2 Italian mob guys going back after each other for the governor's mansion. Good luck. Next one, Haitian Flag Day. The Haitian community celebrates Haitian Flag Day on May 18th by sharing their national pride and optimism for the future while ignoring the ancestors before them. So, I don't even know what the Haitian flag looks like. Let's open up this trend and see what we can see. Come on. Yeah, loading up Haitian Flag Day. Exactly, that's what's happening right now too. It's loading it up. Oh, hello. That was an enjoyable thing to open back up to. There's your Haitian flag right there. And I think the browser just stopped. Which means that we're probably going to get bumped off of offline too. Give that a second to catch up. Okay, there it goes. Haitian pride always. Well, I can see why they want to display that flag. Oh, I hope we get our fourth trend. It doesn't look like we're going to, though. It looks like we're going to have browser issues and process. Oh, there's the last one. K-pop is trending for the fifth trend here. Shin E's Taemin releases a third mini album called Advice. I don't get it. I really don't. I try, because K-pop is always trending every Tuesday. Some sort of K-pop thing is trending. I still don't understand it. I still don't get it. But I do give it the benefit of the doubt, and I do try. So, I might be wrong for this. I might not be, but I try. All right. That's going to be it for the day. So, let's change the scene up. Let's get some music up, and let's head on out of here. The new computer is going to be coming here, and this little girl can finally retire. I've got the funds. I'm ready to do it. So I got to get all the pieces here and get it built. It's going to take some of the charm away from the show. The little podcast that could on the equipment that probably shouldn't. But we've got to get production values better, so that's going to be coming up here. Let's get some music up and going, and let's head out of here. Oops, that's really loud. All right, well, thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat and came and hung out with us. We will see you guys here tomorrow for more Contemporary. We're going to have a lot more fun with this, and hopefully, yeah, like I said, within the next couple weeks, we'll have the new system up, ready to go, and we can do some better production values as well, so definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for whatever news the government brings to us. I'm sure we're going to talk about Israel. I'm sure that we're going to talk about what's going on there, plus this child tax credit, and well, the Supreme Court is going up, so there's going to be a lot of chatter about that as well. So I don't know what's going to happen between here and tomorrow, but we will all find out together. So hope to see you guys here tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.